Years ago, I had moved out of my parents' home in Wishaw, Scotland, almost at the same time as my childhood mate moved across the road and my brother lost his job, so I had plenty of time to take over the world. Now, these two are deviants, especially when they get bored. Anyway, my mate, let's call him Jerry because that's his name, phoned me up one day saying that he thought he could smell a rancid, gassy stench coming from his house and he wondered if I'd come down to try and help him find out where it was coming from. Being a loyal and nosy bastard of a mate, I duly went down and like a true narco sniffer dog, tried to find the source of the stench. It was disgusting. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't find out where it was coming from and I honestly sniffed his toilet. Yes, again, but this time he asked me to. Underneath his sink, and at one point seriously considered having a nasal navigation around his rusty balloon knot. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I advised him to call the gas board, which resulted in the full block of flats and half the street being evacuated, with specialists that then came in to start digging holes in his garden and tearing apart the actual road. This sparked this conversation with my bored brother, who had watched the whole thing from his bedroom window unfold because he was unemployed as truck at the time. David, because that's his name, called me and said, "Oh shit, Joe, I've done it this time." The silly bored, dole-collecting, jobless prick had only gone and smashed about 15 stink bombs into my mate's letterbox, which resulted in Bruce Willis wheeling out the hotshot Armageddon drilling team to come in and save the world again and turfing half the street onto the pavement for several hours. All this while my Jerry Springer candidate of a brother watched from his window without uttering a single word. "What should I do?" he pleaded with me, and I was like, "Say nothing." I then proceeded to unveil the full episode in all its stinking detail during my best man speech at my brother's wedding about 6 months later.
That's great.
Until then, my mate had no idea, and I'm not sorry to say that I mustered up a slight wood as I watched him mouth silently, "You sneaky bastard," at the wedding. Up the wires, keep up the good work, go well, go long, and never eat squash Maltesers. Also, don't gas your neighbours if you're unemployed. All great piece of advice there.
Oh, man.
Me mate's stag do, which started really well. First stop was to throw him out of a plane. And this is where things took a turn. It was a tandem skydive. The instructor thought he'd show off by flying the stag over our heads nice and low. This meant that he didn't have enough time/altitude to turn back into the wind when landing. Long story short, he came in too hot and landed hard straight onto the groom's ass, resulting in a fractured vertebrae.
Oh, my goodness me. Imagine how salty the bride-to-be would be.
He was lucky he managed to walk out of the hospital a few hours later in a world of pain, but walking. And the story doesn't end there. After a full day of steaming in, doing activities and waiting for the stag to return, we ended up back at his house playing a little bit of BYC. But not with a tennis ball with the insulation tape to create the seam. I'm talking a real ball. Big mistake. I ended up taking the ball directly to the face of a cracking six that was headed about 6 houses over. Suspected broken cheekbone, an eye that looked like it had come straight out of a horror movie for a week. And I think the groom, with a grazed face from falling over, got off lightly. Talking about taking a turn. Party's gone wrong.
Oh, my gosh.